the Biden crime family. I'm not necessarily talking about the president right now. I want you to know that. There are a lot of people in the Biden family that are profiting off of their relationship with Vice President Biden, who is now, President Biden. God, I can't. It's like I choke on the word saying President Biden. There are a lot of people in the Biden crime family that are benefiting financially from the fact that their leader, their senile old duffer, President Biden, is in the office. That doesn't necessarily mean that the president himself is criminal. Look, I'm president of the United States, right? And let's say my sister or my brother or whatever says to some Chinese group, I can get that legislation passed. Oh, we need this legislation. Well, we'll pass it. We'll get it done. But you got to pay me $50,000 a month. Put me on your board of directors of some of your Mickey Mouse Chinese companies, and $1 million go back to the big guy. Okay, we do that. And they make a meeting, and they have a meeting, and then Hunter Biden goes to the president and says, well, I want you to meet these Chinese people. That's not illegal, by the way. It's called lobbying. That's absolutely 100% legal. What isn't legal is if some of the money that they give Hunter Biden, the $50,000 a month to sit on the board of directors and the $1 million cash up front, if Joe Biden receives that $1 million, then it's illegal. Then it's bribery. Then it's influence peddling, right? But it's not illegal to accept money in order to make your case before the president. That's called lobbying. And as a matter of fact, the framers of the Constitution talked about it. You read about it in the Federalist Papers. They were all in favor of lobbying, because then all of the individual groups that represent the United States could narrow their focus down and lobby Congress for better America, better legislation. And that's how it works. And the president doesn't even have to be in on it. It's his son, right? If your kid comes to you and goes, hey, listen, I'm working with this group and they're doing great work. They're doing great work to help clean up the environment and make a better world. And they're from China, and they would really like it if you let pass this legislation. Well, let me take a look at it. I'll meet with them and I'll talk with them about it. That's not illegal. That's perfectly legal. It's the changing of the money. And the Bidens are not stupid enough to put Joe Biden directly on a check. Okay? For instance, last year, he just reported his income taxes. It was been publicly reported what the president makes, what his income tax return said. It was only $547,000. I mean, gee whiz, with what I don't know what the income is of the president of the United States. I think it's $150,000, $200,000. That kind of income, you can easily make $500,000 a year. You just put half of the money in an IRA, for God's sakes. So $547,000. Then people say, well, he's lying on his taxes, cheating on his taxes. That's not likely. What happens, though, is after he leaves office, those debts get paid. Like Barack Obama. Barack Obama didn't make any money while he was the president, but boy, he sure has after. Why do you think that is? Because all those special interest groups who were lobbying him while he was president have now decided to pay him off with large book deals, sweetheart loans, gifts and remunerations, all of which is legal once he leaves office. He got a $40 million book deal from the same company that he signed legislation for to get certain textbooks made. So it's not illegal. What happened? He signed the legislation. This company got the textbook deal. And then after he leaves office, well, we'll just, you know what, we'll give you $40 million so that you write your memoirs. It doesn't matter if anybody buys the frickin' book. It's a payoff. And that's how it works. That's why this whole Hunter Biden thing will get a lot of people in the Biden family in trouble, because there are some questionable legal issues about what influence peddling actually construes. But nobody is going to be in an orange jumpsuit anytime soon because of what's on Hunter Biden's laptop. Not to mention the fact that the Justice Department is not going to prosecute because the president can always pardon them. So that's what it boils down to. Nothing's going to happen. So I know all of you people who are sitting at home going, well, they got him now. They got him now. It's like the Trump people. They got him now. They got him now. He's not going in anywhere in a darn jumpsuit because he hasn't broken the law. What it boils down to is whether you trust him enough to reelect him. It's incumbent upon you, the voter, to fix this. You have to decide whether you want to vote for this guy whether this character belongs in office, whether this senile old duffer who can't even remember what planet he's on is going to be president. And you know, the fact that he's senile, and I'm saying it outright, President Biden is senile. The fact that he's senile makes him the perfect dupe, because you could put any kind of legislation in front of him and he'll sign it. Well, Mr. President, this is going to do great things for the environment if we shut down these power plants because they're polluting, and we could build these solar power plants and it'll replace the energy and blah, 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 blah. Just all you got to do is sign here, press hard. Okay, I'm doing this for the environment. Oh, this is the best thing. This is not a joke. You know why President Biden always says, this is not a joke, I'm serious? Because every time he opens his mouth and says anything, everyone starts to laugh. This is not a joke. This is serious. I'm helping the environment and I'm helping the world. And sign here, press hard, 3 copies. Not realizing what he's doing is playing into the hands of the Chinese, because they've paid off all of these influencers on the White House. He's probably got that's why it appears that President Biden is adrift in his presidency, because he is. Because all of these people are running the show. Every influence peddling group, every lobbying group, every special interest has all got a say in what goes on in the White House, and they're constantly pushing things in front of him to sign. Just sign here. Frankly, I don't think he even knows what he's signing. I think he's signing executive orders on regulations and whatnot, and they're telling him it's legislated from Congress, and they're just lying to him. Here, President Biden, Congress passed this, and it's just an executive order. Okay. And he gets a stack in front of him. It's a joke. That's why everybody is laughing every time he opens his mouth. This is not a joke. Yeah, it is. It's a sad joke being played on the American people. President is the perfect dupe because he's senile and he's old. You don't have to pay him off. Like, Barack Obama was not a dupe, right? When he left office, he expected all these people to pay him. And they did. The 40 million book deal is the most notorious one. But there are a lot of other ways that you get paid off when you leave. But President Biden, he's like at the end of his life. He might not even survive the rest of his term. He certainly wouldn't survive a second term. So the question remains, why is he a dupe? Because he's the perfect dupe. Because he's going to agree to sign all these things. He's going to take all the blame when they shut down all these power plants and all this stuff that's going on. All the little things when they shut down all your gasoline cars. When you spend money, ridiculous amounts, trying to build an infrastructure rather than letting the private marketplace do it successfully. He's going to take the blame. Well, it was President Biden's legislation. It was President Biden who signed this law. President Biden who did this. President Biden who screwed up inflation. Oh, it's President Biden, President Biden, President Biden. The only time you have a problem is the re-election time, which is why all these people are jockeying around Biden to run for office. That's why Gavin Newsom, because they're hoping that a guy will croak or something, and then he could just step in. Well, I'll run. Because if he croaks, right? Excuse me. If his old age becomes a problem and becomes fatal, if his senility gets to the point where he can't be president, it has to get pretty bad, then someone like Gavin Newsom will step up to play. I'm ready to go. I'll run for office, and then it'll be a fait accompli. That's why people like Gavin Newsom look like they're running, but they're not. It's the same thing over on the side of Republicans with President Trump and President DeSantis. Not that Trump is a dupe, but if Governor DeSantis is going to run, it's not going to be against Trump. What will happen is he's hoping that these legal troubles of Trump will manifest themselves into a point where he can't run for president, or it's not possible, or the Trump followers will completely abandon Trump. And it would take some doing. But it is possible that the legal woes, particularly with the Georgia case, will damage Trump so bad that he can't run for president. And then someone like DeSantis will say, well, I'm ready to go. I can step in at a moment's notice. So that's what we have going on right now between the right and the left. The president is a perfect dupe, and Donald Trump is kind of problematic. It's like, will his ego override, or will he step down because of legal woes, or will the case in Georgia against him on election tampering, will that get any traction? So all these others are jockeying position. They won't directly run. Newsom won't directly run against Biden. DeSantis won't directly run against Trump. They'll wait until these guys can't run. Biden says, well, I'm not going to run. Or Trump says, I'm not going to run. or it becomes obvious that Trump followers won't in mass support him, that's why they're all getting ready. Because they all know that these candidates, Trump and Biden, are extremely weak. And it's also why President Biden is a perfect dupe, because they don't got to pay him off. Right? I mean, if he's senile, he's never going to know. He's going to think he's doing this all for the good of the country. He probably in his mind thinks he's the greatest president ever. I'm doing all these things and people love me for it. When in reality, he's the worst president we've ever had. And I include in that Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama. Anyway, we're running out of time. I want to talk about one last subject before I go. I want to talk about our national park system and about the Second Amendment. We'll be right back after this brief message.